Yo! What is going on, you guys? Welcome to episode, what is this, 6? Episode 6
Yes,
of
yes.
season 2 of the Fury and Friends show. I don't know about you, Jario, but I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, it's
This,
excited, nervous.
yeah, this is gonna be a good one, you guys. We're gonna have some fun. We got Auntie Tammy already on here.
Yes.
What's going on, Tammy? Thank you for joining us. If you guys are out there, comment, let us know where you're viewing from, and we're excited to get into this. We're going to be talking Moon Knight, the launch of that new show on Disney Plus.
Yes.
We're going to get into the Kentaji, what is it? Jackson Brown Jackson. I always flip those in my head.
I know.
Kentaji Judge, the Honorable Judge Kentaji Brown Jackson,
Yes.
her Senate or Supreme Court hearing, and then we're going to talk about. Yes, I know you probably might be sick of it by now. We'll talk about it and we'll be done with it. But the slap heard round the world. We're going to get into that today, right before we get into our big interview with my brother, Gregory Harris, who is doing some great things in ministry, and he's going to share his testimony. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. Well. It has been a wild week. Has it not been?
Yes.
I mean, there's been so much going on.
I know. It's so funny.
In our personal lives. I mean, I know my family's been struggling with illness and stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't you just start up work? You know, like a new
Yeah.
job recently?
Went back to a new job. Got this pinched nerve in my back. It's just
Yeah. We're gonna make sure you pray over your back before this show closes, because we're gonna make sure we keep prayer a part of this. I love that we ended in that way the last.
yes.
And we definitely gonna need that after a lot of the conversation that we're gonna be going into today. I invite all of y'all, as you're watching, to continue to pray over our conversation, because there's a lot of emotional places that we're going to be going that we know have touched us, and we want to make sure that we walk through our emotions in a way that honors the Lord. So we're going to start off light, though. Start off in the fun side of things. We both got to watch the launch of a new show. Yes, that's right. It is Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Moon Knight is a superhero that is not extremely well known by, I think, a lot of kind of casual Marvel fans. If you're someone who grew up reading the comics, I'm sure you've been aware. But he's a superhero that kind of has a vibe that's more like an anti-hero in a way, where it's not so Captain America clean cut, type of superhero, or almost like a Batman. Well, I mean, Moon Knight, Dark Knight, there's some similarities there.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you don't know anything about what we're talking about, the show on Disney Plus, and here's a look at what the superhero, he kind of looks like a villain. If you didn't know anything,
you would think
bad guy,
totally bad guy vibes.
But he is not. So the premise, and we'll try not to really spoil too much with this, but the premise of the show in episode 1 kind of launches you into that, is you've got this character. Well, I guess we'll spoil a little. You've got the main character, Stephen Grant / Mark Spector, which you start to discover his other. He's okay. Look, here's the spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode and you know nothing about Moon Knight, the man's got multiple personalities.
Yes,
and
for sure.
you see him flipping in between those personalities. So this guy who seems like a really sweet, innocent, dude who works in a gift shop in a museum in London. Yeah. Nerd who loves the ancient artifacts and the knowledge, and
Yeah.
has aspirations to be a tour guide, but he's just working selling, trinkets.
Yes.
Yeah. And we find out that his um, alter ego is a mercenary
Yeah.
who, similarly has an interest in, ancient artifacts, but not
Yeah.
from an academic standpoint, from a, retrieval standpoint. So he goes
Yes.
and catches stuff.
Yes.
And that's where their path, I'm going to say there, because I guess they're they.
They're together, technically.
Yeah, they intersect with this guy, Arthur. Oh gosh, what's his last name? Arthur Harrow, maybe. But he is modeled very much after like your, modern day cult leaders. He looked.
Yeah.
Did you catch where the setting was for his
I
realm?
was trying to figure out. I was like, definitely Europe, but I
Yeah.
couldn't pinpoint it. I looked a little bit like Italy, but nah.
I don't think it was Italy, and I was doing some like, so I watched it twice. The second time I was like trying to see what I missed, and
Yeah.
as I was trying to discern where they were at, I saw there was one building in the background that had a weird word that was spelled like Bakeroi, and then it had like the dots over the A, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a
Ah.
Dutch or a German
Yes.
type word. So
Sweden.
yeah, somewhere in like maybe those
Okay.
that
Yeah.
that region, but they haven't really specified, and I don't know if it's going to turn out to be like super important
Yeah.
where that is, because rather soon the story comes to London, right? So
Yes.
that's where it really starts to heat up. So, what were your thoughts about it? How did you like it, or how did it make you feel?
I really liked it. I liked it because it was different, and then I don't know much about Moon Knight, so that's pretty exciting. It's kind of like Eternals to me. I didn't really know much about it, and it's kind of its own thing, and it'll be interesting how they tie it into everything.
Yeah.
But and I kind of felt like it had a Venom vibe too, because
Hmm.
that's kind of who Moon Knight reminds me of, like Venom, like how they both talk to each other.
Right. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. So it
Yeah,
actually even
yeah.
sounds like his voice.
He does sound like him actually, yeah,
I
and
didn't
he
even
kind of
think
like they're both anti-heroes, but
that.
yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed that episode a lot, and I liked how they gave you a lot of info on the character.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't, introduce a ton of characters. You meet
Yes.
maybe 4 people and they really focus in on like 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm still chewing on your thought about Venom. I'm like, yeah, that is
Mhm.
actually very similar.
Very.
That it's like there's a possession sense,
Mhm.
and the voice, you recognize, oh, this isn't Mark Spector talking. This is another voice.
Yes.
Is that voice the voice of this Moon Knight that, I don't
This
know, like, I
guy,
don't know how that works. So
he's different.
I looked into one thing about Arthur. Well, before I go into that, I'll share as well. Like, I also really loved the show. Like, I thought the edginess of it
Mhm.
was well received. I loved that they really went deep and did, character development on the front end. And at the same time, you're like thrust into a lot of action, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what's going on? And why does he have these, chains on his arm? And like, is that salt he's putting around his bed? Like,
Yeah, like, what's
what
going on?
level does he know his own brokenness? And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
tape on the door.
yeah, it's like, man, like, so you're jacked up, but you also seem completely oblivious that there's another person that takes over. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe
Yeah.
he has really violent dreams. I don't know. Or maybe he just thinks he does sleepwalking, right? And like this is his way
Yeah.
to try to prevent that. Um, so I thought it was really good. One thing I looked into that I thought was interesting is when I looked into a little bit of the background of Arthur,
Mhm.
that opening scene I thought was super like intriguing, the way they open it, where he's breaking the glass,
Yeah, I was like,
putting
"What
it in his.
is this guy doing?"
And so I read an interview with Ethan Hawke, who plays him, and he
Mhm.
he shared that as he was just kind of diving into this character and trying to understand him. He was looking at the psychoanalysis type thought of Carl Jung, who's like a psychologist and gets deep
Mhm.
into crazy, philosophical and even religious thought, and then also looking at people like David Koresh, who were cult leaders, and kind of modeling himself after that. And then
Yeah.
he's having a conversation with the producers and like just like trying to explain ways that he thinks this character might like ways that this character would demonstrate itself on screen, and he
Yeah.
described that scene and they were like, that's good, we'll open with that. And
Oh,
like, so they're like really just listening, and like that's one
oh,
thing that I love when I hear
wow.
that about different shows, where it's not like the director is coming in like this is the way, but I love when I hear about
Yeah.
the actors being able to ad lib or things that weren't planned that suddenly became like some of the highlights.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, because I feel like that's one of the most memorable parts of the first episode.
Yeah, I
Is
was
that
like, "Did
opening.
he just do what I think he did?" Like,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, and what's the point?
And actually, what he said was he felt like when he was thinking about characters like this, um, part of their deep understanding is if they're these spiritual leaders, is this understanding of sin to a
Mhm.
degree, right? That sin is a reality, and that they too engage with that, and so then there becomes like a self-loathing that they have
Oh,
because of their own broken humanity, and so
yeah,
like you will see like ones where like people are like harming themselves and
yeah.
like doing all these crazy things. So this is a version of that from
Okay.
his perspective. I was like, wow,
Wow, that
that's
makes
deep.
sense.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see if there's more, personalities that emerge. I
Yeah,
I know about Moon Knight on a surface level. I was
right.
never like a deep fan of the comics. Were you ever? Did you ever
I
read it?
liked comics, but not I didn't get into the all of them, so I don't know
Yeah,
all the side,
yeah, yeah.
characters.
And apparently there was even an Easter egg in the episode where he gets the phone out of the wall, and Layla is Mark's wife, apparently. So his you know other personality's wife
Okay.
calling and calling and calling. But then there was another number in his phone named Ducamp or Duchamp or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like an iconic character named Frenchie, apparently from I don't know if he's really iconic.
Okay.
That's what the internet was calling him. So
Icon.
yeah, I think I'm just really interested to see how this show plays
Yeah,
out. So I'm
it's gonna be
excited.
great.
Yeah, so let us know, you guys, in the comments, and whenever you're watching this, even if you're not live, what you thought about the episode. Maybe some things that you're anticipating. Maybe some characters. People keep talking about maybe there's going to be a character named Nova who's
Oh,
been popular in the comics coming over. I don't know. We'll see.
okay.
Excited.
Never
Hey,
heard of it, but excited.
maybe we'll give a Moon Knight update in a little bit.
Yes.
Actually, maybe sometime over the summer, because you guys, we'll just interrupt this moment to let you know next episode is the last episode of this season, and then we're gonna take a little break and we'll come back with some special stuff. But right now,
Yes.
let's do a little bit of we'll call it live streaming therapy. as, as we talk about the Supreme Court hearings, or Supreme Court Justice nomination confirmation hearing
Yes. There's so many words there.
with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yes.
Gosh, I don't even know where to begin with this. Um, such an amazing background in her story, and the way that she's kind of worked her way up, how she was a clerk to a Supreme Court justice at one
Mhm.
point, and I don't know. So before we even get into, I don't, maybe you should lead this. I don't even know, y'all. I'm in my feelings. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm in my feelings with this one.
Yeah.
Um,
True
special
story.
prize. What's Terry asked about special prize for?
Oh,
In the summer. in our summer episodes. Yeah, she keeps talking about prizes. You keep trying to win something, don't you, Tammy?
This is the Price is Right.
All right. Well, you know what? Maybe we will give away some stuff over the summer. That sounds good, actually, to make it a little special. Let's do that. We'll work that
Yeah.
into the budget.
Yeah. We need some Fury and Friends merch.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, that's not a horrible idea. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, but we talk about the judge. Here come the judge. Here come the judge. So say something, Jario, before I
Um,
go, because I feel like I'm gonna get lost when I start.
okay. I'll just say what I thought overall. Overall, you know, I was very into it.
Yeah.
I was getting a little heated at times. I didn't watch because I don't like. I guess I don't. What I don't like is how people will question someone sometimes in a way that is demeaning, but they're trying to act like it's not.
Right.
And if we're being honest, she's the most qualified Supreme Court nominee of all of them. Like, so they really couldn't question her on her background and her education. Like, they had nothing to go with. So I felt like there was a lot of picking on stuff that to me didn't seem necessary and was just a negative for just politics in our country as a whole. Like, can we just stop doing that stupid stuff? It's getting annoying.
Yeah.
So overall, like I didn't like that. I did like how her family was there. You know, I just think she's like an outstanding just human being. Just hearing her friends and family talk about her. I saw like I think it was on the Today Show. You know, she just seems like it's just a really good person. And
Yeah.
yeah, I liked seeing the whole process. I just didn't like how nasty it got for no reason.
Yeah. So I concur with all that. I think, and now I'm gonna try not to get unhinged. Uh, so I struggled to watch any of it for a while. And actually, the only reason I really watched it was because I knew it was something we should talk about.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be more informed for this conversation. So I went back and watched a lot of clips. Um, Most of it was just like the annoying, discouraging, like disgusting climate of politics
Yeah.
we've seen for too long.
Yeah.
And not just, in this scenario, but like this is the most recent
Yeah.
situation where it's showing up again. And like I was watching what's his name? Lindsey Graham
Uh,
go through his, and like he's like maybe 15 minutes into his questioning, and he hadn't actually really questioned her.
no,
He was really just like using this opportunity to talk about how the Democrats have done in the past.
yeah.
You're like,
What is
why did she need to like be brought through this?
exactly?
Like, why are you doing this right now? And like, and it was weird because there were even like places where he was like celebrating her faith in backhanded ways.
In backhanded ways.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it's like, man, the politics of it all is just like,
Mhm.
oh, why is this such a show?
Yeah.
It was just really, disheartening. And it just reminds me why, politics are really not my home. It's like I can't,
Yeah.
I really can't. Like I'm okay with trying to pursue growing in being theologically sound,
Mhm.
politically homeless. Like I'm okay with that. Like and then the questioning with good old Teddy Ruxpin. I mean Teddy Cruz.
This guy.
He started his talk, and I shouldn't have made fun of his name right then. Like, this is why I said, see, that's why I said I need prayers when I go through this, y'all.
Yeah.
Certain people kind of irk me, but he had a whole laundry list of cases that he was trying to dive in and pick apart to weave this narrative. And he wasn't the only one. There was another one, I can't remember the name, they're trying to weave this narrative of her being soft on child pornography and child sex offenders and that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
And in my homework, uh, I'm seeing tons of people on the conservative side
Mhm.
who are like just actually fans of the truth.
Yeah.
Saying, while some of the things that were shared were facts, they weren't shared, in good faith to actually represent the truth of her record,
Yes.
which they're saying in regards to, the narrative that they're trying to share is really just in line with the majority of judges across the country.
Yeah. It was no different.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like you're the thing that they're really were showing was how different her sentences were to the guidelines that were put down.
Mhm.
But the reality is, most judges don't go exactly according to those guidelines.
Yeah.
That's why they have judges, right? Rather than just have here's what happened,
Yes.
1 + 1 = 2. Boom. Like,
Yeah.
no, because humanity, right? Because
Yes.
there's layers and nuance to things. And that's, I think, going to be a theme for a lot of our conversation here today, is that there's
Oh, for
nuance,
sure.
layers to things. And that's why people present, layer upon layer of the reality of certain situations.
Yeah.
And then you have a qualified individual that we believe is operating objectively, who then can make a judgment. you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they're also humans, so they may get it wrong from time to time. When you have hundreds of cases, there may be one where it's like, I probably like that. That's gonna, in hindsight, that's gonna look like maybe not the best,
Yeah.
judgment, but like you're doing your best, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the cases that they pointed out. Now I'm going deep in this, and I did not think I was going to go this deep. One of the cases that they pointed out was this case with a young man named Hawkins, who apparently the story was from a very religious background,
Mhm.
who was coming out as homosexual. The family wanted him in no way to be in that regard. You know what I mean? They were fighting
Yeah.
against that, and he didn't. His response and his exploration, he turned to pornography. And I'm not making any excuses. I'm just like, these are the layers of the reality.
Yeah.
So like they were looking at the differences between, that for gratification versus identity, because he was a young man. And it's like, is this like he's exploring what this world is, or
Yeah.
so it's like, that's why they present judgment versus like, here is a person who had this is the sentence, you know what I mean?
Yes.
and
Exactly.
and then they had the and this is the last thing I'm gonna say before this becomes like the law review show. Then they have, with all these cases, and she mentioned it, not only the guidelines, not only the prosecutor's recommendation, but then you
Mhm.
have the probation office, the probation department's recommendation. Then you have the defendant's, the defense attorney's recommendation.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, with all the testimony, with what they're thinking about, retributive justice versus punitive,
Yeah.
redemptive, like all those things. That's all going on in her mind as she's trying to lay out a judgment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just concerning that they then now take certain things, play games with facts, aka gaslight slash lying,
Yeah.
and try to paint her as something that
Yeah.
many in the law community, even on the conservative side, would say it's not true. And
Yeah.
like,
It's like a not trying to assassinate her character over something that isn't even true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you have, even prior to that, like a Lindsey Graham talking about how, I know your faith is so important to you, and how your family is so important to you. Then the next conversation is like, and you're pro child abusers. Like,
Yeah. It's like
y'all play too much. Y'all play way too much.
basically saying, "I don't really think you're a Christian," but not coming out and saying
Yeah.
it.
And like that's where the conversation has really gone to for I think a lot of the church in
Mhm.
politics is the judging of one another as not in the church or in the church
Yeah,
based on their political stance. You know what I mean?
yeah.
There's things that appear to be very opposed to biblical teaching on both sides, and I'm not trying to quote Trump when I say that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And then the people who have the opposite opinion are like,
exactly.
y'all aren't Christian. And like
Yeah,
I think we need to, as the church, like recognize, man, we can actually be very much on different sides of this conversation and
mhm.
still recognize we'll all be in heaven. And I'm not, and but hold on, I'm not trying to put everybody in the
Yeah,
conversation in heaven.
yeah,
But I'm saying,
yeah,
I'm
yes.
saying that can be possible. Like you can be a Christian and someone who votes Democrat. You can be a Christian and someone who votes Republican. You know,
Yes,
and that is what it is. So I
exactly.
think I've now alienated all of our viewers because whatever. I'm gonna stop. But I was hurt. No, that's what. Here's what I'm saying. I was hurting for her as I was watching this happen.
Yeah, it was so hard.
Mhm.
It was, like, heartbreaking at times because it was just, like, she was trying, you have to, maintain a certain, decorum,
Yeah.
but I felt like, she was just being attacked for reasons honestly having nothing to do with her
Yep.
personally.
Yep.
And yeah, just to see her have to take that on, it was just like, wow.
And then there was a shining moment for me in this whole proceeding, and it came from the mouth of Cory Booker, in my opinion. And
Yes.
I'm not always on the side of Cory Booker, but I've actually had some experiences with him where I was like, oh, I really appreciate him. He actually spoke at the Global Leadership Summit the first time that I was there years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
had never heard of him before. And I was like, oh wow, this guy's pretty good. And he got like a standing ovation from the crowd there. And
Really?
I think he's really good at inspiring, and I think that's what he did well in this moment. And we're going to show this moment real quick, and then talk about it for a quick second. So let's go ahead and take a look at this.
You have earned this spot. You are worthy. You are a great American. Your hero is Constance Baker Motley. Mine, she has sat on my desk for my offices that I've held. She's my icon of America. Her name is Harriet Tubman. There is a love in this country that is extraordinary. You admitted it about your parents. They loved this nation, even though there were laws preventing them from getting together. When they were loving, there were laws in this country that would have prevented you from marrying your husband. It wasn't that long ago, it was last generation. But they didn't stop loving this country, even though this country didn't love them back. And what were the words of your heroes and mine? What did Constance Baker Motley do? Did this country that she saw insult and injuries, when she came out of law school, law firms wouldn't even hire her because she was a woman. Did she become bitter? Did she try to create a revolution? No, she used the very constitution of this nation. She loved it so much, she wanted America to be America. As Langston Hughes wrote, oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, but yet must be the land where everyone is free. Oh, yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, but I swear this oath, America will be. That is the story of how you got to this desk, you and I and everyone here, generations of folk who came here and said, America, I'm Irish. You may say, no, Irish or dogs need to fly, but I'm going to show this country that I can be free here. I can make this country love me as much as I love it. Chinese Americans first forced into near slave labor, building our railroads, connecting our country saw the ugliest of America, but they were going to build their home here and say, America, you may not love me yet, but I'm going to make this nation live up to its promise and hope. LGBTQ Americans, from Stonewall women to Seneca, hidden figures who didn't even get their play until some Hollywood movie finally talked about them and how they were critical for us defying gravity. All of these people loved America. And so you faced insults here that were shocking to me. Well, actually not shocking. But you are here because of that kind of love. And nobody's taken this away from me. So you got 5 more folk to go through. 5 more of us. And then you can sit back and let us have all the debates. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a well-charted Senate floor because it's not going to stop. They're going to accuse you of this and that. Heck, in honor of your person who shares your birthday, you might be called a communist. But don't worry, my sister. Don't worry. God has got you. And how do I know that? Because you're here. And I know what it's taken for you to sit in that seat.
Yeah. So I thought that was really powerful, and I thought that was a beautiful example of how we need to lift one another up. You know?
Yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this might even be a good transition as we see one way that you could defend Black women. Oh. So we are going to. Do you have any last thoughts on the Supreme Court nomination before we switch gears?
I just think like it is a great transition into one, how you handle yourself under pressure against what we're about to talk about now.
Yep. She handled herself well. And so now let's have the next convo. So there were some interesting events that happened earlier this week. Well, I guess it was technically, well, no, it was earlier this week.
About a week ago. Yeah.
Sunday, right?
Sunday, yes.
Yeah. So we had the Oscars take place, the Academy Awards, and there was a lot of anticipation that Will Smith may win the award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Richard Williams, the father of the Williams sisters. But before that grand moment, we had somebody take the stage to present actually a completely different award. It was the presentation of I think it was an award for Best Documentary short or something like that. Well,
it was something, yeah.
Yeah, that's the sad part, right? Like,
yeah, it's like, who knows?
Actually, we'll get to that because there was something in that. But let's see here. So the slap heard round the world, as we'll call it. That moment happened. So you got Chris Rock getting up on stage to present the award, and Chris Rock, being a comedian, as most comedians do when they present, he starts in some improv jokes, and he made a joke in regards to G.I. Jane and Jada's hair, and initially this was the response right here. This is the first reaction, and then it changed rather quickly. It went from a laugh, and you can already see Jada like, oh no, what's he doing? To this. Then we got Will taking the stage and slapping Chris Rock. And it was like so surreal. And it was like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
And you would almost even imagine that it was fake and staged until you see his seated remarks after the slap. Then it's like, oh,
I was like, and once they started muting, I'm like, yeah, this is real.
this is not planned. And the only reason why we even know what happened was because there were some outlets like overseas or whatever that had recorded, so that has now been disseminated. And he had some choice words about his wife's name being in Chris Rock's mouth. So gosh, where do we go from here? There was a lot of things that were said in response to that. Some people have shared the thought about more sympathetic view to Will.
Yeah.
We had I don't even know who this was. I just like the comment. It says essentially though, Will was deeply triggered by Chris's demeaning comments about his wife's alopecia, which Chris apparently didn't know about. That's kind of the story that I've been hearing, that he didn't really know that was the deal.
Yeah.
And they said he was taken straight back to childhood, seeing his mom getting abused by his dad. That could be. I know the reality is there's always layers to things
for sure.
that are going on, and we don't really always know what's going on behind the scenes for folks. Let's see. We also had Jim Carrey, who had his own response. He doesn't want the hassle, referring to Chris Rock decision to not sue or press charges even. He said, I'd have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because the video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous. That insult is going to last a very long time. And then we had, kind of our own reaction. So maybe we should talk about our response for a minute.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to kind of the rest of what the internet world has said. So, first of all, were you actually watching the Oscars live?
Yeah, and what's funny is I never watched the Oscars, but Liam wanted to see the live performance of We Don't Talk About Bruno from Encanto. So you know how they just keep saying, "Oh, next commercial is going to be, they're going to be playing this thing," and they didn't, and the slap came before the. No, the slap came after the Bruno performance, but I just happened to just keep it on. And I was so shocked. I was just like, I couldn't even, I immediately went to Twitter just to confirm, did I just see what I think I saw? Right. Then I rewinded it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this man just slapped this dude on national TV. And then, I was just like, oh my gosh, my initial reaction, I was so just shocked, and I had secondhand embarrassment for Chris Rock. I just felt so bad for him because I don't agree with the joke because because I feel like we just need to stop talking about Black women's hair.
Come on,
let's just stop. Make another joke about something else. We've all talked about Black women's hair enough. We don't have to do it anymore. But just to know that for eternity, someone is going to see you, a grown man, getting slapped by another grown man. It's just, that's a lot. And I don't think that was fair. And I didn't like Will Smith's response. I would have preferred if he would have just, they kind of laughed it off. And then in his acceptance speech, talk about the alopecia and talk about, his wife and how she struggled. I think that would have got Chris more than that slap, because it would have been like, oh man, I didn't know. And lastly, what I really didn't like about it was how it overshadowed Serena Williams and Venus Williams' dad. Because at another award show, another person made a comment about how Venus and Serena don't have to play against the guys like she does. She said that in her acceptance speech, just like a backhanded compliment to them. And then they have this other big night, and now it's overshadowed by Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And it's like, this is supposed to be about Richard Williams, and it's just not. And that's just the sad thing about it to me.
Yeah, yeah, man, I agree with everything you just said. And there's just so much sad realities to this
Yeah.
scenario. Um, and the the fact that it was such a weird moment
Hmm.
because it wasn't even like an enraged
No.
Bill. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he just ran up and
Yeah. It was
it
a
was
delayed reaction.
yeah, because he was engaging with the joke and
Hmm.
like kind of trying to play it off and laugh through it, which
Yeah.
I think is the more appropriate response there. I mean, and I think he's even said now, like, this is what you do, like you deal with abuse and da,
Yeah.
as that's part of being in the public eye in this regard.
Yeah.
But then it's like he looked over and he must have saw the look on Jada's face and was like, I think then he got triggered in some
Yeah.
way that like I need to now be a certain kind of man for her.
Yeah. There was something else underneath that
Yeah.
we don't know.
That's I think that's the piece that none of us are really ever going to be able to get to
Yeah.
because the truth is, man, and we know more than we really should in most people's lives because they've
Yeah.
been so open.
Let's be real.
But like, talk about being open, like their open marriage
Yeah.
and like all of the ways in which they've had so many trials in how to support one another and trust
Yeah.
one another and like so I feel like all of that history was like boiling under the surface when he
Yeah.
looked over at her and was like, okay, I need to now step in
Hmm.
and and then that was so then it was like an emotional yet thought out calm walk up to the front
Yeah.
and like
Yeah. Yeah.
slap, and then he turned around and it was almost like he thought he was in a movie. Maybe it just like triggered like those clapboards do when it's like
Yeah.
action. Because he turned around and was like had like this little smirk on his face as he's walking
Yeah.
back, and I was like, whoa, you're unhinged. Like, where did you just go right now?
Yeah.
So
It was
that
like
was
an out of body experience for him almost.
yeah. And Tammy has a good, she's got a good question here. She said, would he have slapped a white comedian for that joke?
I would say no because the response would have definitely been different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that to me is why it was more hurtful because it's like, yeah, we've already got enough going on. Let's show some solidarity. And this is probably not the most Christian thing to say, but honestly, if he wanted to punch him, I would have preferred if he just
Oh
waited for
yeah.
Chris Rock to exit the stage, make his way backstage, and then it is what it is.
You're nailing it, and then I think maybe even Tammy's getting at that with her statement there, because really what this was, and I'm as a black man looking at this scenario,
Mhm.
this was like you are disrespecting me and mine, and so
Mhm.
now I'm gonna press the nuclear option on
Yes.
disrespect, which is
Yes.
I'm gonna walk up on this stage and I'm gonna slap you, and that's way more disrespectful than any other form of
It
violence.
is an open hand slap. Yes.
Yeah. It like takes you all the way back to all the different ways that women have been,
Yeah.
abused and disrespected over the years. It's
Mhm.
like I'm gonna treat you in that same way.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he just went to a whole nother level of disrespect. And I agree, Tammy. I don't think he would have done that if it was a white person, man,
Yeah.
woman, on stage. And it was like suddenly you got now kind of like black community business happening on the stage. You
I
know
was
what I mean?
It made me think of when your parents used to say, "Don't talk about what goes on in this house." And I'm like, man, now everybody knows what goes on.
Yeah. It's like you just put it all out there, like yeah, and made sure that everybody won't forget, West
Yes.
Philadelphia, born and raised, like
Yes.
still,
Exactly.
still there.
I will say I am glad we're talking about it later on in the week because I don't feel I feel a little different than I did at the beginning of the week because I
Yeah,
just feel sad for everybody, like
yeah,
because it is actually just a sad situation. And
yeah,
then now that Will has resigned from the academy,
yeah.
I do feel like he feels. I do think feels remorseful because that has to be so embarrassing for him that he let himself do that.
And specifically for him, like I can't imagine too many other Black figures in the entertainment world that have had such a long history of crafting an image.
Yes.
He started off as like kind of like the rapper that like had to prove that he was, good enough or whatever for the mainstream. And then he had to go through years of being looked at by other rappers as soft and oh, you're that guy. And like, so to get himself to this place, and then to now in a moment take himself all the way back.
Yeah.
It's that's real painful to watch.
And to know that you did it to yourself. No one did it to you. To know that you did that to yourself. Like, I think like, he's probably gonna have to go and do a lot of work on himself just behind the scenes, just to get beyond that moment personally.
And clearly you even see that he's been in the midst of the need for therapy if he even isn't already.
Yeah.
Clearly, like, that wasn't an appropriate response.
No, that was very overreaction.
A whole bunch of baggage that just came to the surface in this moment,
yes, for sure.
So, yeah. Here we go. This is great. So Tammy said, the blessing is this: we as believers make mistakes all the time, and although we're forgiven, there still remains the earthly consequence for our actions.
Yep.
That's absolutely right.
Yep.
And so, like, I think another layer of this conversation is the understanding of grace. And I think it's hard in the midst of such a heavy cancel culture that we have, like the world doesn't quite understand that, so we'll see how this goes for him. But like, there was also some other unfortunate things that happened as a result of this. Tammy mentioned it earlier. The award that was actually being presented was the one for Summer of Soul, which was an amazing documentary that you can see. I think it's on Hulu and maybe on Disney Plus now as well.
Yep.
Questlove was one of the central producers of that, but there were also 3 other producers, and they actually got upset at Chris Rock for another reason. And I don't know if people even caught this. So when they finished, like, that moment, Chris Rock then went on to say, and this award goes to Questlove and 3 white dudes. And one of them ain't a white dude.
He really isn't.
And he got in his feelings about it.
Yeah.
He said this. He said the reason let's see if we can move that banner real quick. He said, the reason that makes me so very angry is because I was so proud to be one of a handful of South Asians to have ever won an Oscar in the history of the award. I was ecstatic that I was the 3rd South Asian to win that night. 3 South Asians winning on the same night. That's never happened before. And it's meaningful. It's history. And now, like, that moment, like, you in the front end of this conversation, you even were like, I don't even know.
Honestly, I don't know anything that happened beyond that moment.
Yeah. And it all got overshadowed.
And you could see the energy suck in the room too.
Oh my goodness.
It was like everyone was just kind of like, can I go home now?
What do I do now as a response to this? Dude, this is Tammy going in. What'd she say here?
Man.
Preachers do to their congregation what Will did to Chris every Sunday. They beat up people with the word, and it's never good news, which the gospel is supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, we're not gonna say all preachers, but that definitely happens. And if you're not preaching the gospel, which ends with the forgiveness of Christ that covers all of our sin, you're missing it, and it can never be better, mentality. So yeah. So not only did Jim Carrey and certain celebrities have responses, not only did the people that were to have won that award after have a response, but the internet went crazy with meme upon meme upon meme. Let's see if I can pull up some of those here. So we had me trying to enjoy the weekend Monday.
I haven't seen that one. I love that.
We had this one, things we don't talk about. Bruno and Jada. Here's another variation of that. We don't talk about Jada.
I've not seen these.
Continuing on with that joke. Apparently, we'll make that one fast because that just continues on that the pain of the black woman's hair. I like this one a lot, and I think this one's a thinker for Marvel fans. So Jada is saying to Will, longing, rusted, furnace, daybreak, 17, benign, 9, 101. Y'all know that?
The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, those are the key words for the Winter Soldier that causes him to like snap and go into like assassin mode.
People are so funny.
Like I was like, that's quality. That is quality. Then we had this one, the boom boom. We will rock you. Yeah.
I should not be laughing as hard as
I know, right? I know.
So
we're gonna go through quick. This one I like because it's like if it was Chris or if it was The Rock and Jada said that, then Will's just all laughing, right? That's the question, right, Tim? Would he have marched the stage if it was The Rock up there?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. He would be like, "Hey, man,
don't say that."
Yeah. I'd appreciate that. Not
he might have yelled from his seat, like
right. Keep my wife's name out the mouth. And this is like using the Matrix. Everybody not caring about the Oscars. Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock. Everybody running. That was actually literally me. Normally, I watch the Oscars, but not because I really care about the Oscars, but because I'm a competitive guy. And we get out our Oscar sheets, and without having seen 85% of the movies, we just start making guesses as to who win the different awards. And I like being the winner. But this year we actually didn't because I just forgot about it and I missed it. And I didn't know what was happening until my daughter who's on Twitter, was like, Dad, you got to check this out.
I know.
So I was those people running to what was going on there. And then a few more. I just woke up. Now I'm hearing Oscar slap Marty. America, gas prices.
Oh my God.
When the roast on your girl was funny, but then you remember she was your ride home. Will Smith, when he heard the joke. Will Smith, when he saw Jada's face. Paper beats rock. I think we get it. Then there was one on TikTok that had me rolling. So let me show this video real quick.
Now this is a story all about how I slapped Chris Rock and sat back down. And some people say I'm wrong, but I don't care. I'll tell you why you don't make jokes about wifey not having hair. When Pookie came walking out on the stage, we had no idea we were about to get played. He said a little joke and everything was all cool, but she didn't laugh and now I gotta act the fool. Took a couple of strides up the right where he stood. Looked him in the face and I slapped him good. I gave him one little slap and the world got scared, but that's what happens when you talk about wifey not having hair. I won Actor of the Year, but nobody really cares, and Diddy was up there. We're gonna kumbaya later. I'll see you tonight so we can clear the air, but I'll slap him again if he talks about my wife's hair.
That was good, actually.
Yeah, he did a really good job on that one. I was like, oh man, that actually worked. That actually worked. All right, so let's play a quick game, and I want all you guys who are watching at home to play along. Jariel actually gave one of these answers, and you'll see it maybe later. But I'm glad you like that, Tammy. I want to see if you guys can tell the true stuff from the false stuff, because the internet, just like some of the stuff that's going on in the Supreme Court hearings, is not always telling us the truth.
Yeah.
So let's fact check these memes coming up here. So true or false? This is Nicole Kidman's reaction to the slap heard around the world. What do you think, Jariel?
I think that is false.
You think that's false? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody watching in the comments, I'll give you about 10 seconds. You think true or false that is Nicole Kidman's reaction. I actually hadn't seen this before I found out one way or the other. So we'll say 5. She says true. All right, so we're gonna see what it is. It is false. Now, here's the thing that's tricky about this one. That was Nicole Kidman from that night.
Yes,
So when you
it
see her
was.
in that dress, you think, then that's definitely true. So you sound like you know why that was actually false, Jariel. Did you?
I think that had to do with some award that her movie won, right?
It was related to an award. It was actually as a result of someone she was in competition with for the award that she hadn't seen in a while. When she actually saw that person walk over, it seems like an extreme reaction to
Yeah.
but like that's also why you see the other people in the picture who are not really like responding in any way.
Yeah, they're like, whatever.
With Jessica Chastain, who I don't remember what the movie was, but I think she
the Tammy Faye Baker movie.
There you go. So that's what that was. All right. So sorry, Tammy, you didn't get that one. Maybe you get the next one. So here we go. This one might be a bit easier. True or false? That is Lupita's response to the slap. True or false?
That's true.
All right. Jariel says true. Let's see. I'll give you about 5, 4, 3. True or false on the slap? Yeah, she's got true, and it is true. That one was easier because she's like literally in frame.
Yeah.
In most of the pictures where he's talking about his wife's name in Chris Rock's mouth. So.
Yeah, that's how I kind of knew it was real too, because her reaction was like, "Oh, what is about to happen?"
Right? She's like, "Dang, this is
should I move my seat?"
And if y'all haven't already figured out, today's going to be a long episode. So hey, it is what it is. Next one. True or false that these are reactions of other celebrities on that night? True or false?
False.
Oh, we got a false. What do you say, Tammy? Like you're the only one watching. Whatever. He might be the only one watching.
She's the only one chatting currently.
The only one chatting, yeah. So maybe you're watching this on delayed reaction. What do you think? True or false that these are celebrity reactions to the slap? They definitely look surprised. They definitely look like they're, at an event. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. She got it in. It is false. Yes, it is false. Do you know where that's from?
That is from, I think, last year's Oscars when someone announced that, maybe 2 years ago when they said, what is the dancing movie with Ryan Gosling? La La Land. They announced La La Land won Best Picture when it was actually Moonlight.
Yes. And you're actually showing your age, Jariel, because it was like 5 years ago. Time flies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said Moonlight won 2017.
Oh my goodness.
So that was when there was that debacle there, and
that was pre-COVID. Wow.
Yeah. So just a reminder, you guys, that the internet is not always true. What about this one? Is this apology from Will Smith? Saying that he's apologizing to Chris on Instagram, that there's no place for violence. Is that true or false?
True.
We got a true from Jariel, and 5. Jimmy Kimmel made the mistake. Oh, he got it wrong too. He put it out there.
Jimmy Kimmel was the one who announced it, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, on stage, is that what it was?
No, actually, I think it was that lady, Faye Dunaway, the one who
played.
Yeah.
Maybe Tammy's trying to say that Jimmy, but whatever. We're moving on.
Yeah.
It is true. It is true. Everybody got that one right. Yes, it is true. He actually did apologize via Instagram. Hopefully, he's had a conversation with Chris at this point. I don't know. And then what about the other side? We got an apology going around from Chris Rock about the whole incident where he just talks about the difficulty with, being a comedian, and he apologized to his friend Jada Pinkett Smith and all that stuff. Is this true or false?
False.
False. Jariel says false. Any other thoughts from the crowd? Also false. Y'all know your internet. That is false. Fakerino. He has not said much at all outside of one moment he made in his most latest public appearance on stage where he kind of said he's just processing it, doesn't even really know what he's going to do or think about it.
Yeah.
And you already gave this one away, so we're not even going to waste time. Yes, he resigned from the Academy. It doesn't necessarily mean that he can never win an Academy Award again.
Correct.
But there's just certain privileges that come along with being a part of the Academy that he is, giving up. I have one more section here. I don't even remember what this one was. Oh, this was his more lengthy response as to why he resigned. And he's trying to really. Yeah, he resigned, Tam. Yeah, he resigned. This is his way of trying to demonstrate remorse, to Jariel's point earlier.
Yeah.
Which I feel like this is a healthy response now. Now we're seeing Will be the Will that we've seen him before.
Yeah, I think this is after he's had time to just really think about everything that happened and just like, the
impact of all of it. And and he says how change takes time, and he's committed to doing the work to ensure that I never again allow violence to overtake reason. Like that is what exactly we need to see.
Yeah.
Folks. And I think one last thing, and I love ending on high notes. The last thing I want to share is from one of my favorite moments of it is Denzel Washington. We need people to be there, to encourage us, to call us out, to like iron sharpening iron type of situation. I'm not trying to call Will a Christian here, but you've got Denzel, who is definitely a man of faith, who comes in with Tyler Perry, who also is, and is like letting him know, like, hey, we're here with you. And Denzel says this iconic phrase, at your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we need people to remind us of the spiritual reality of so many things that we don't engage with on that regard a lot of times,
which was honestly one of the most positive moments of the show or of that whole situation. That I feel like that Jesus was like shining a light in that room through Denzel by what he said, and just by him not even like shunning Will, but just showing him grace. And I love that. I love that. Even though this is a horrible situation, I think it just started a conversation amongst people, and it's a healthy one.
Absolutely, because this is the conversation that needs to be had in a context like this, even outside of this situation.
Yeah.
Like, had this moment not happened, like, this phrase still rings absolutely true.
Oh,
and it's a night that is all about people often at their highest moments in their life and in their career.
Correct.
So it's like it is now a spiritual takeaway for everybody of like, man, I need to be on the lookout for that enemy who's, prowling around like a roaring lion trying to take me down,
Yes.
We see too many times the tragic falls of too many celebrities, and no, we should never put them up on a pedestal as anything other than human. But when they rise to these certain levels of acclaim and celebrity, that then they often, fall down because they fall into significant sin and all sorts of things. So I think this is a great moment. And man, Denzel, he just continues to remind us all how much we love him.
Yes, it's like, could you get any better?
So now I'm even like tempted right now to like put him up on a pedestal. And I'm like, he's still human. But oh my, the stories of the way that he was there for Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
He just seems like the Hollywood mentor that the Black community needs. It may not just the Black community, but definitely the Black community.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, we are an hour into our show, and we have not gotten to the most lengthy part normally of our conversation, which is our interview. And I'm excited to bring that to everybody today as we are approaching our final hour of the show. Is this gonna now be a 2-hour show?
Right.
Anyway. But I'm excited to give you guys today's interview, which is an interview with a brother of mine who I've been in ministry with over the past year plus, who's now getting ready to launch a new ministry that he won't end up getting to talk much about in today's interview. But he's working on something called, I don't even know if I'm allowed to publicize it yet, but I'm working with him behind the scenes on some of the design elements of it. When I have permission to speak on it, I will, and I think it'll be something that'll be impactful for folks. But today we're really going to hear a lot of his interview, and the rest of it will be up on Freedom Story Media YouTube in the coming week. I think what you should listen closely here for is just the level of faith that this brother has. And there's so many faith stories we weren't able to get into, but there's one that comes, I think, to the forefront here. So let's go ahead and get to that interview. And he's also amazing father and husband, and he's been doing a lot of work in his community. So I'd love to give him an opportunity now to say hi, and we'll get into his story for real. So Greg, say hi to everybody.
Before I say hi, I just want to do this thing real traditional, like giving honor to God, who's the head of my life, First Lady Harris, because without her blessing, I wouldn't be here. No, what's up, y'all?
You can do that, bro. I like how you ended up doing it without doing it, and we got to be
right.
Oh man, so y'all, let's just get right into it, Greg. So I know you have a very, and the word of my day is dynamic. I know you have a very dynamic story, but let's take us back to whenever for you was the first time you were experiencing this new life, this new birth, this freedom in Jesus, and maybe walk us through a little bit of what life was like in the season leading up to that, and how much of that you ever want to share. We got time, brother, so go there.
So first of all, I guess the process for me was from jump, right? Mm-hmm. Because my father was a pastor. So, but I guess the thing that was lacking, I had knowledge, but I didn't have relationship. Mm-hmm. So for the longest, probably up until age 25, I really didn't live for God. I knew of God, thought I had a relationship with God, probably like so many people do. And, but it wasn't until 20, like somewhere in my 20s, roughly I'd say 25, that I really like came in, like experienced God, right? Mm-hmm. And still that was, I guess, kind of like the story of the blind man who was touched twice by Jesus. Mm-hmm. I saw, but I didn't see. You follow me? Like things cleared up, but it still wasn't clear. So at age 25, I rededicated my life to the Lord. I had been wilding out, you know what I'm saying? From 15 to 25, I had been wilding out. PK kid, going bad, going wild. I was out in the streets. I was I was a poor hustler. At that time, 17, I want to say, no, 18, we had our first child. 19, I was married. But still wilding out, you know what I mean? But
yeah, so hold up, slow down. Let's double back a little bit. So whereabouts were you living? Were you in the States somewhere?
At that time I was living in Sarasota, Florida.
Okay, so is that where you grew up?
We moved to Sarasota when I was 15. And so I grew up in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay, so the first chunk of your life, you're in Mobile, Alabama. 15, yep. You guys moved down to Sarasota, Florida. Is your father still pastoring down in Sarasota?
No, my father passed away in 2017.
Oh, he passed away then.
Yeah, he passed away.
No, I mean, was he? Well, first of all, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good. He's with the Lord now.
Yeah, amen.
So yeah.
But in when you were 15, was your father pastoring?
Yes.
Again, that was
Sarasota.
In Sarasota. Okay, yep. And so then at that time, I know you said at 17 you guys had your first child. When did you meet your wife? Like you were in high school or?
So, like I said, my father was pastoring all my life, but and when I was 14, he was pastoring in Mobile, Alabama. At age 14, he felt the call. When I was 14, he felt called to down south, and so a church, True Vine Missionary Baptist Church, called him up, and it just so happens that I guess the interview per se happened on my birthday weekend. So the church found out about it, and they decided to throw me a surprise birthday party full of kids that I did not know. So I showed up, and there was this one young lady there. I'll say, I would say girl, but one young lady there by the name of Rashonda that I met. So out of the trip, as whack as it was, because, you know, my parents were moving me away from everything that I knew right at the prime of my teenage years, you know. I met this young lady, and I was like, yo, so it is one good thing coming out of the move. I met Shonda, and, you know, when we touched down, I'd be able to holler at her. Little did I know, Shonda didn't even go to the church. You know, she had some cousins.
She happened to be at that party?
Yeah, man. She had some cousins that periodically went to that church, and they found out about the party and showed up. So I guess they kind of crashed the party a little bit. But anyway, so when we finally touched down, she wasn't nowhere to be found, right? So anyway, the question was, I'm a little ADD.
No, so I was just trying to get a little bit more clarity and add some background color to the story leading up to you getting to know
having a child.
As you were with your father as he's going through ministry, and now you're turning 15. It sounds like at this party, and you meet Chandra, and between 15 and 17, it sounds like the relationship's going well. In some ways, maybe a little bit better.
I didn't see Shonda again until a couple of weeks before my 16th birthday.
Oh, okay.
I was working at Winn-Dixie, and she came in her McDonald's uniform, looking all fine. You know what I'm saying? And she came through my line, and she was like, "Yo, so what's up?" I'm like, "Yo, you tell me. Y'all have me and my boys. We having a party this weekend. Why don't you swing through that thing?" So she showed up, man, and we've been kicking it ever since.
Okay, and now you, as a 16-year-old young man, though your father's the pastor, you're not quite living like, I mean, I guess in a way you're living like the pastor's kids, right? Because
I'm more like, man, I had this.
Are wilding out.
I definitely had multiple masks that I was wearing. You know what I'm saying? So
I pray for my daughter.
On Sundays and on Wednesday nights, you know,
I
could do the church boy look, and then the rest of the time I was wilding out kind of, but that was learned because I grew up in Mobile, Alabama. We lived in an all-white neighborhood, so I was the only black kid, right? And then, but my father pastored a pretty much predominantly black church in the middle of the hood, the Trinity Garden. So on Sundays, I would have to put my black on, and then Monday through Saturday, you know, I was skateboarding and doing all this other stuff. So I just kind of learned how to, you know, become a chameleon. So which calls for a lot of should I say confusion and inner conflict and identity issues all day. So so when we moved to Sarasota, and I found myself in similar, you know, circumstances, because I found out my black wasn't black enough. You know what I'm saying? And so I found myself doing a whole lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing to prove myself to a whole lot of people that really didn't have, you know, my best interest in mind, and got in a lot of trouble.
Man, I did not know any of this, and it's almost like you just opened up my diary and were sharing my story a little bit, because I grew up in an all-white suburb in the south suburbs of Chicago, but every Sunday we drove into the south side, an all-black church, and so I know the, you know, two white for the black kids, two black for the white kids, and wearing the masks because you're trying to find acceptance and belonging in whatever situation you're in, and you feel like just being you in whatever situation is doesn't quite cut it, right? So you got no, I feel you on that, man. That was a thing that messed up a lot of my identity issues early on, and I think you said it was, you know, you ended up doing stuff that you just knew you shouldn't have been in places you knew you shouldn't have been.
And you know that I think that's probably a good segue. You haven't even asked the question, or I don't know if you plan to ask the question, but as it pertains to my freedom walk, right? My
Freedom story, man. Your journey.
At 25, when I did rededicate my life to the Lord, a lot of what I just said played a role in that, right? Like my identity. So what I started doing was I just started, okay, so I'm rededicating my life to the Lord. And so that must look like what I see around me. And so even though my heart was in the right place, I took those survival skills that I had learned, right? And I just applied those to a new frame of mind per se. So I started wearing suits and things, and I started, trying to talk the lingo. Like I said, first giving honor to God, the head of my, those
all of that stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff I learned, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff, but that stuff was not me.
Right.
But, so I traded one form of bondage for another form. It may not be bondage to some people. That's just authentically who they are. So I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. But for me, it wasn't who I was.
Yeah, you just went from playing one role to another role.
Yep.
No,
and the sad part about it is I didn't realize I was playing a role. I thought that's what it was to be a Christian. That's what it was to be saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, see, I didn't even really engage with what that looked like for me as much until you're even sharing this right now, because there's so much of it that you don't realize. Like you at that point when you're coming to know the Lord, you don't know what's cultural and what's biblical and what is, this is as a result of the Spirit now indwelling in me, or this is a result of me just being around people that do things this way, talk this way, look this way, so on and so forth. Yeah, that has a big role in our formation. And I think, and I wonder if that's something that we should probably in our discipleship really speak to more intentionally, because I know I don't really do that, but speak to more intentionally as I'm discipling people, because they're learning the biblical things, right? They're learning the language of the word and the activity of obedience to Jesus, and they're hopefully learning how to hear from the Spirit, but they're also learning the way that Greg does life, and the way that Greg does this, and the way that Greg does that, or the way that Armand does this, and so where are they learning the difference between what's Gregory Harris versus what actually Jesus?
That's good, man. That's good. And because I guess the facade it's not a facade, my identity, right, I guess can almost become for somebody else a mask. If they take what they see in me, the way I carry myself and the way I talk, and they chalk that up to, okay, that's what it looks like, then that can become bondage for them, in a way.
Yeah.
So,
and they don't even, like you said, they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like you said, they don't even. I know. That literally happened to me, and I didn't realize it either until, I was turning 30. Or no, that's not true. When I turned 30 is when I got saved. So it was, I don't do math, 2018. So whatever that was years ago was when I started realizing, a lot of my formation was actually like cultural and personality formation based on the context that I was following Christ in versus like what is actually who I am. And I think when you come from a place of having so many identity issues early on, learning the difference there becomes really important, because you've yet to really learn how to be you. Because when you become, a follower of Christ, now like you recognize there's a lot of you that's broken that you need to like surrender and submit. And like, what if you're surrendering and submitting just parts of how you're wired? and that's actually not sinful. That's just you and your unique cultural, thing that you're bringing to the table. So I didn't mean to go there and get all like,
oh man, that's good stuff, bro. That's good stuff.
And maybe that's why the Lord put it on my heart when he was sending me out that I need to focus less on just being the one doing everything and more about being a convener of people and like working with a team. Because you know what I think what might be a good fix for this, and I swear this is the last thing I'm gonna say before I get back to answering your question or asking the interview, is really intentionally doing discipleship in community. And I don't just mean it like as a church, which yes, but like when I was being discipled early on, it was always one-on-ones. Like, I'm just talking to you one-on-one. Let me hear what's going on in your life, and let me walk you through how I see this, and yada yada yada. And it was all good, but like there's also a sense of maybe if we had more discipleship groups where it's like it's not just you and the pastor or you and that leader, but like you and maybe 2 or 3 others, where y'all are all doing discipleship together, that you're now receiving different, understandings about what it looks like to follow Jesus through different people's lives. So that I think as you have a multiplicity of ways that you're seeing people do life, then you can see, I think we had this conversation in one of our cohorts, because I feel like I'm like, when you have the multiplicity of ways that you're seeing people do life, then you can kind of see the common thread in all of those. Oh, you do it this way, but this, and you do it this way, but this. Oh, there's the but this. That's Jesus, right?
And the trap, I guess, and that especially we as men get into a lot of times is the fix it trap. Right. So everybody comes to us, especially new believers, when you're talking about discipleship, they come to us with maybe a slew of questions or a slew of problems, right? And they pour them out, and then we go about prescribing the solution or trying to apply the word. And so, like I told you before, I was meeting with a young brother before we got started, and one of the things that I stressed to him was like, listen, man, and this is just authentic to me, right? Like when you live, I mean, I realize my hood is not the hood for some people, right? But when you live amongst an environment where you really don't know who you're coming in contact with, and you got babies at home, you know what I mean? You have to walk with people conscientiously, you know what I mean? Cautiously, should I say. And so the brother I was meeting with, I'm like, listen, man, you new to the faith, you know what I'm saying? And we're trying to grow with each other, and we've known each other for 3 weeks now, but let's be 100. You still really don't know me. I still really don't know you. And so right now we're in this portion of our relationship where we kind of, we're developing trust for one another. Right. And so a couple weeks after he was coming here, he asked for $60 to borrow it. And God he's blessed me with enough to be able to share $60 with somebody. So I was like, cool, man. I was like, are you sure you need to borrow it? Or I'm not trying to be funny. This is the conversation we have. So I'm not trying to be funny, but you need to borrow it, or would it be better having it?
Yeah, it's just a gift.
You follow me? And I broke it down to him. I said, because if you're borrowing it, then you're putting the expectation of repayment. And I said, if you don't pay me back, I said, ain't no love lost, but just realize next time you come around talking about, I want to borrow some money, bruh, I can't help. I mean, you ain't paid me back for the last 60 I gave. Right. So I was up front with him, right? Cool. So it ain't no love lost. And then guess what? That week he wasn't able to pay me, but he called me and communicated. Right. And then today when we met, like the first thing brother does when he hops out the truck, he comes over to me and he tries to hand me the $60 back. You know, little did he know God had already told me to just let him have the $60.
Right.
So when we sat down, you know, and I told him, hold on to it for a minute. And we got to that point. I'm like, and I told you what I just shared at the beginning, like developing trust. I said, man, don't worry about the 60. God already told me to let you have that. You know what I'm saying? And I said, not like $60 ain't a lot of money to me, but I'm just being obedient. But that's who I am. That's who I've learned to be. Like, yo, let's be upfront with people. Let's talk to people. You know what I'm talking about? Let's not hold grudges. I don't want you, you know. And so I broke it down to the brother, like, yo, man, you like, I earned trust with you by letting you borrow the 60, right? And I said, you've earned trust with me because you showed me you was ready to pay it back to me. Right.
Yeah.
And so not that I even get it back. And now, once again, it's a trust, like a love factor, right? God told me already that you had that, bro. So, you know, and so I just pivot off that, just going back to like being lost and being in bondage. And like, so after in 2005, I rededicated, not 2005, 2003, 2004. I rededicated my life in 2005. Like, I felt like God was calling me to ministry. It was like
I'm so sorry. Did something happen right before you rededicated your life that was like, oh man, like it was a moment where God just like rushed in and was like, it's time, you know?
Yeah. Like I told you before, I was wilding out. Yeah. So and I was a poor hustler. I wasn't never one of these hustlers that made a lot of money. I made enough money to supply my habits and to pay maybe a couple bills. Right. So I was at this stage where I was like, okay, yo, am I going to really do this to make some money, some real money to put, you know, food on the table for my kids and to take care of them? Or am I just going to do this and let that be that? And so I had came to the conclusion like, yo, I'm going to up the ante. So I called up one of my friends who, you know, dealt in weight, and he was willing to put me on. And he just had a heart to heart. He's like, yo, so, you know, if I put you on, you're just going to have a bigger target on your back, right? And I took that into consideration. And so the next day, man, no lie. And like I said, I'm a poor hustler, so I had a part-time job working at Publix. You know what I'm saying? Publix supermarket. If you're up north, you don't know nothing about Publix. But
I was literally just at a Publix because I was down in Gainesville last weekend.
Yeah. Publix, what it is, man. Nah. But I was working part-time at Publix. I got in my car the next day to get ready to go to work. Right. And I just had a heart to heart with God. I'm like, Lord, I said, man, if you're real, I said, just give me some sort of sign. I said, I'm not trying to test you. I just need some direction, because if you don't have plans for my life, I said, these are the plans I'm about to make, you know, and it was just a heart to heart. And that's the way, that's pretty much how the conversation went. Right. And I said, amen, croak up my car and headed to work. So I got to the Publix, pulled up to the light, and a semi truck pulled up like catty corner to me. And on the trailer of the semi truck, it said, come follow me into a new and exciting fellowship. Right, bro?
Like he literally gave you a sign. Like,
man, I'm saying, right. Like I would have been more specific. If I had known he was going to give me a sign, I would have been like, yo, Lord, bust the heavens open. I need some angels to talk to your boy. You know what I'm talking about? He sends me an 18-wheeler trailer. You know what I'm saying? So, wow. So literally, I'm sitting in my car and I look at that and I go, nah. I go through the whole day at work convincing myself it was just coincidence. I ain't tell nobody. I didn't want anybody to go, oh, that's God trying to talk to you. Right. By the end of the day, man, I had convinced myself it was just a coincidence, and I had a blunt rolled up in the ashtray and everything. And so when I clocked out, my conscience was free, went on about my regular business. Just so happens I some kind of way found myself in church, in my father's church that following that weekend. And in the middle of his sermon, he stops and he says, you know, sometimes we'll ask God for a sign, and he'll literally give us a sign and we'll make ourselves think it's a coincidence. I had to be, I am a stubborn dude. Right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, nah, he ain't talking to me. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, I didn't want a literal sign. I wanted a sign, you know, like the sign you see in the movies. You know what I'm saying? Like something I can go out and just like lay it all down for and just be diehard for Jesus Christ. You can't be diehard about no 18-wheeler sign you saw. Anyway, So that's what I said to myself. I'm like, no, that's not what it's going to be. And so he said that, and then he continued on in his sermon. And then he stopped and he backed up. He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know what's going on. He says, God's trying to get something through to somebody. He says, sometimes you can ask God for a sign, and he'll literally give you a sign, and you'll make yourself think it's a coincidence. He says, and he backed up. He started walking back and forth in the pulpit, pacing. He said, I'm not talking about you walking down the sidewalk and a piece of paper blows by and you pick it up. And it's a sign on a piece of paper. It's a message on a piece of paper. I'm talking about a sign big as a billboard. Now, when he said sign big as a billboard, bro, wow. I just heard this little still voice. Like we classified as our conscience a lot of times. I just heard this. Now, if you want to believe it was a coincidence, you go right ahead. And I was just like, okay. Wow. And I just started slowly surrendering stuff. You know, so that deal that I was talking to you about that was supposed to be made never went through. I just started just letting go of stuff. And so what I started doing was I just started showing up on Wednesday nights at church, just taking out the trash, doing whatever I could to help out, just to be around church. And one thing led to another. One of the youth teachers, you know, hollered at me. He's like, hey, would you mind sitting in on a class with the teenagers? And I said, what does that mean? I mean, because I don't want to teach. What does that mean? And she was like, well, as we go through the lesson, if you have any thoughts or, you know, you have any input, you can just share that. I'm like, okay, cool.
I can do that. Okay.
I can do that. Yeah. And so I started doing that for a few months. And then the next thing you know, I got a phone call. Brother Greg, I can't make it this evening. And I was calling you to see if you would teach the class. What does that look like? Well, you've been going through the lessons with us. I got the materials. All you got to do is just read it a little, you know, go over it and just do what you've been doing. You've been doing a great job.
Yeah.
I've been doing a great job. Huh? Okay. I think I can do that. You know what I'm saying?
So like it was progressively the Lord.
Yeah, man. The next step. And then all of a sudden, like after, like I said, that was in like late 2003, 2004, right? Early 2004. And during that time, man, I just got more involved. So I started going to Sunday school. And all of a sudden, it was like everything that I looked at, like whether it was social media, it was new back then for the most part. So I would, but anything I'd go to, it was, everything was saying like, preach. And I remember at that time, because I had given up hustling, I had to go full time at Publix, right? And, you know, brother needed some benefits. And I was working the early morning shift, and so I needed to go to bed early. And my wife and kids were gone, and I was getting ready to go to bed at like 6:30 in the afternoon. And I bowed down on the side of my bed to pray. And as I went to pray, I just heard Mark 16:15. I didn't hear it audibly. It was almost like a thought that was just dropped into the middle of everything that I had going on in my mind. It was so precise that I looked around because it felt like somebody spoke it. And so I was like, man, that's crazy. Mark 16:15, that's pretty specific. So I went and opened up Mark 16:15, and it said, go ye into all the world, preaching the gospel to all creation, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, you know. And so at that point, I'm just like, whoa, that's crazy. That, okay. You know, I just thought about it for a few days. And once again, because everything that I was looking at was saying preach, I finally went to my father and I'm like, hey, Dad, I think like God is calling me to preach. And he goes, okay, let's go to dinner and you can share with me what, you know, God has been doing. So, you know,
and how old were you at that point?
I was 25.
Okay.
Yep. I was 25. Well, it was it was 25, bro. And it just went from there.
So that's the place where you're like now recognizing the calling. And so I'm assuming somewhere after there, maybe you started getting your feet wet in preaching. I know when we were kind of getting to know each other a little bit, I heard about you making your way to a church that I had actually gotten familiar with down in Tampa. So what brought you from Sarasota to Tampa? How did that transition happen?
So amidst all of that stuff, like I left out the part that when my pops was preaching, I was sitting at the drums, right?
Oh, so you were playing drums.
I was playing the drums, man. So because we didn't have a drum player, and so I go in there, I could hold a beat and whatnot, so I play the drums anyway. I've always had a love for music, right?
Yeah.
And so before I rededicated my life to the Lord, I was doing secular rap, just
I don't know if I knew that.
recording and stuff of that nature, man. And so once I rededicated my life to the Lord, I actually put down all of that stuff. And then about a year and a half into just walking that to that journey, I just felt like God had said to me one day, like, hey, you used to use your gifts to glorify the world. You can use those gifts to glorify me. So I thought, man, at that point, I thought I was on something new. Like all the Christian hip hop I had heard up to that moment had been like real corny sounding hip hop, So I thought I was doing something new, and so I started recording and writing gospel rap, hip hop, and from a Christian standpoint, and man, so all of a sudden I was sharing some of my music with one of the members, older kid that was visiting, and he was like, man, you ever heard of Corey Red and Precise? I'm like, nah, who's that? He was like, man, I'm going to bring you a CD and let you check it out. Right. So, man, this dude brought me a Corey Red and Precise CD, and it just like blew the top off of my head. I'm like, yo, these dudes are doing it proper, like, right? I'm like, they're official, I mean,
right.
I mean, shoot, but I'm like, man, I mean, they're hood certified for real. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just sitting there like, okay, all right. That just made me even more hungry, because I'm like, there's other brothers out there doing it. So once I heard Corey Red and Precise doing it at the level and the quality that they were doing it, it just made me up my game. It made me want to up my game even more. Right. So I just started doing it even more so. And I started, people started hearing about what I was doing and started inviting me to different events, youth programs and things of that nature. And one thing led to another. All of a sudden, I'm not the only one rapping. There's other brothers in the community also rapping, and we're connecting. And it's like, yo, man, you heard about Flavor Fest? I'm like, what's Flavor Fest? It's a concert at this church. It's this conference at a church called Crossover up in Tampa. Taking place in a couple weeks. What? For real? Okay. You want to roll? Yeah. Rolled up, man. And don't you know, that was right. I guess that was just when Reach Records was just really taking off. And
really?
So,
which is
Lecrae and Tadashi, them guys were there, man. And I guess at that conference that I attended, that was also what's his name? My mind just went blank. KB, yes. KB was performing that night. And I guess that was that night Pastor Tommy had KB go open up for 116 Lecrae and them, right? And so Lecrae heard KB and his homeboy Second Chance, man. And it was like, yo, I want to get to know y'all a little bit better. And so that was I saw the birth of that take place. So dope. I mean, and I say it from a point of like way, like I didn't know them, so it's not like I saw it, but I just witnessed, like, after KB and Second Chance left the stage, Lecrae came up and was like, wow, man, those brothers, man, wow. KB, because they had given a testimony.
Do you know about when that was? Around what year that was?
That had to be somewhere probably around 2007, I want to say. Maybe 2006.
That's even
maybe
before I got
like it wasn't long after. So I started preaching in 2005. So it might have been 2006. It had to be right up in that pocket somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And KB got up and he shared a testimony. I guess that weekend he had a cousin that had been killed, so he was attending a funeral, and he got up and he shared. He ran into a missionary worker, and the missionary asked him a question. He says, "Would you be interested in going over to another country?" And I think this is not verbatim, but KB replied like, "Yo, I ain't ready to die." And the missionary replied, "Well, aren't you already dead?" And it was just like, and KB shared that testimony. And after he shared, he says, "Because if we're already dead, why we're afraid to die?"
Right.
Right. And then they went into the song, and just going in, and everybody's just like, I mean, it was just like you pour gasoline on a fire. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it was mind blowing for me. But anyway,
we're actually going to stop it there. There's so much more. And I was going to show even more, but I feel like that's actually a really good place to stop.
Yeah, that honestly, I love that interview so far. It's so good.
that last comment, the reason why I want to stop that there right now is because I feel like that last comment is a place that we as the church, we really need to remember. And it's so hard in our American context. And Jariel, you and I in other conversations have kind of touched on this recently. Well, for you guys that don't know, the Unshackled Network recently has been expanding and in relationship now with some ministries in other parts of the world who've now become part of our network. And so last Sunday, we got to have our first all network prayer call. And we had people in there from Uganda and from India, and it was really humbling to be reminded of the things that they were dealing with in comparison and in contrast to what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up right now is like the thought about how much we try to hold on to comfort and all of the the joys that we get to have in our context versus what's actually like the biblical, like the impetus of scripture is you are dead and you are alive in Christ, and like everything else is like such a far off thought. Like you're not to be like upholding all of these other things as so important and significant. And it's like, to live is Christ and to die is gain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on these prayer calls, they're talking about, how they're going out and reaching these villages, and how they're trying to rebuild their facility to take care of the orphans.
Yeah.
And I'm like, darn, my live stream's not working this weekend.
I know. And literally the worst, like, you have to feed the orphans and the widows, and it's like, wow, they are doing that.
Yeah. So
what am I doing?
Yeah. So that statement of him saying like, well, aren't you already dead?
Yeah, that was like, ooh, that blew my face off. I was like, oh.
And wow. Like, are we? Like,
are we?
Are we dead to the world? Are we dead to our sin? Are we dead to all those other things? And what do we really see ourselves being alive in and our life given over to,
Yeah.
So that's a really, and it's interesting. It didn't hit me as much during the interview, but listening to it again after the conversation that you and I had after the prayer call, it's like now the Lord's like, so are you dead, Armand? Like, are you dead?
Man, I gotta meditate on that one. That one was like, knock, 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 talking to you.
Yeah. So I just love those ways that the Holy Spirit reminds us that He is alive.
I've been so grateful for the Holy Spirit this week because I'm like, I feel like the Holy Spirit is like, I feel like He's in the range of Spider-Mans, the 3 Spider-Mans, He's the Andrew Garfield. But he should really be Spider-Man number 1. number two. He's so gentle. So just like, always pointing you to the truth and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
gently. I just love the Holy Spirit.
And I look back at scripture and I'm like, I don't know how these people were doing it without the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit was there and physically present
Yeah.
more times than we have so much now.
Yeah.
But like we literally have the Spirit living within us and
Yeah.
walking with us and I'm like, man, and to the level with which we often ignore or downplay or like,
grieve the Holy Spirit.
ooh, me and the Holy Spirit got to be mad sometime.
Look, can I go live somewhere else?
Praise God, He will not abandon and
Yes,
leave us.
yes.
But at the same time, like we can sear our conscience and He will leave us over, give us over to our sin if we continue to grieve Him and continue to ignore Him. But like, I one of the things that I was talking with one of our brothers in our ministry about. Actually, I think my prayer request maybe in that call was, or maybe it was the week before, was a thing that I do weekly during my Sabbath, which is there's a sheet, and I used to do this weekly, I should say. And I was praying that I made it a practice again, because I have a sheet of paper that has these questions that are like kind of like checkup questions on me, like, so how am I doing, with my walk, and as a father, as a husband, and all those sort of things. One of the questions though is, in this past week, like, how have you radically obeyed the Spirit of God? And like the reason why that's so important to me is because it's easy to like rationalize away a lot of the promptings that the Spirit would have us to, and it's not always like these big moments where it's like, you're gonna leave your job today.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, yo, go back and pick up that piece of paper that was on the ground that you walk right past, or go ahead and give $5 to this person over there, or say a kind word to that person I know you don't like right now. You know what I mean? Like, and how many of those ways do we like come up with? Well, people gonna look at me silly if I'm turning around and walking back on the street right now, or it's gonna be perceived weird if there's not a reason why I'm handing this person money, and then it's like, but are you dead to your ways, or are you alive to me in obedience to me? And it's like, am I? That's the question that I want to add to my sheet now. So
yes, that's good.
So we have had a marathon, and I'll tell you, like, I didn't hate it. Like,
I didn't hate it because I felt like every conversation was a good one.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed. I don't know. You guys let us know in the comments whether you liked or were not a fan of kind of us leaning into some of the current event type stuff, because it's the first time we've gone outside of maybe just the entertainment and general world, versus our own personal stuff that we're doing. And I really enjoyed it. I think it went well. We might bring that back, and I don't know, but I do want to let you guys know before we close it down here. The next episode is going to be coming up in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from now, and I'm super excited about it. It is with a ministry mentor of mine, Brian Sanders, from the Underground Network. The Tampa Underground, if you don't know, was instrumental in inspiring the ways that I feel like the Lord created the Unshackled Network and what we're doing up here. So we learned a lot from them and the books that they've written. I've actually got one of his books right here that I got to make sure I finish reading this week, because when we have him on, he's going to talk about that book a little bit, as well as his journey with the Lord and developing the Underground Network and all that stuff. So I'm excited about that. I think beyond that, we might just see what else happens in the world that we talk about. Who knows? And if there's a conversation that you think you would love to have us talk about and get into, go ahead and put that in the comments. I'm not promising that we will, but we want to make sure that we're having conversations that are relevant to you guys, that you think might be of value to you and would be a blessing to you. So, sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. I'm gonna put you on a spot, Jario. Do you actually mind closing us in prayer today? He's like, what? Really? Y'all, I'm gonna hear about this after the show, just so you know.
I'm gonna show up at your house with an open hand slap.
The disrespect. But you know she can't say no now because we live. So
This is true. All right. Okay. Lord, we just thank you for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity to just to do this show, just to bring glory and honor to your name, to have tough conversations, to have biblical conversations, and to do it all in your name. Thank you for everyone who watched today. I just pray for just continued growth and continued blessings on not only our guests, but on us, and just continue to take the show in a direction that you would have it. I give all glory and honor to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
amen. See, that was beautiful. Well, you guys, before we officially hit the 2-hour mark, let's go ahead and sign off. This concludes episode 6 of season 2. We're going to come back with the conclusion of this season in a couple weeks. And until then, y'all be blessed and be a blessing. And we'll see y'all later. Peace.
Bye.